Welcome to the Around the NFL broadcast. My name is Dan Hansis. I'm joined by Greg Rosenthal, Mark Sessler. You may know us from the Around the NFL podcast. Well, this is the podcast on TV, the Around the NFL broadcast, presented, of course, by the United States Marine Corps. Boys, who's excited for training camp?
I'm excited for this show. We're bringing one of our favorite pod formats to the big screen.
Oh my goodness, you're so right. We're going around the NFL. Befitting of the show's title, we're going to check in on every division, every team as training camps kick off across the land. Mark, pinch yourself, buddy.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a lot of work that you've signed us up for. We're doing all this in 1 hour, but I have faith in us. We've done it before.
All right, so let's give it a shot. And why don't we start with one of the most newsy divisions around the NFC North? Greg, get us going.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers back in the mix this week. Like, I enjoyed the transparency. I enjoyed the fact that he somehow got Randall Cobb onto his team and got the Packers to pay Randall Cobb $5 million. Mark, on the other hand, doesn't seem happy to have Rodgers back in his life. Didn't seem happy with all the glowing reviews of Rodgers' press conferences. Mark, why don't you just call out some of your colleagues for how they handled this?
No, I thought it was handled poorly by the media in general. And it's easy for me to say that from my house here, but like a little bit too much glowing, yes.
Why though?
I mean,
like, why did it bother you so much, Mark? Honestly, because it did bother me as well. I specifically didn't like how Rodgers went out of his way to point out mistakes in his mind that Brian Gutekunst made. Why did it bother you so much?
No, I think it's for the same reason. I think that actually the Randall Cobb thing where you're forcing Matt LaFleur to say, I still think this player has a lot of, gas left. They never would have made this move as a front office. It was a strange, it's a strange situation. But I mean, it's not Aaron Rodgers, the player. It's more that this was a, months long drama with nothing at stake for me.
It is weird because Cobb is due $5.25 million guaranteed. And you have to wonder, like, is he going to be starting for this team? Like, Aaron Rodgers is going to realize Amari Rodgers is out there. He's quick. Devin Funchess is out there. He's quick. The offensive line, to me, is the bigger concern for the Packers. They've lost some talent there. They've been great there over the years. But I'm not sure Cobb is really going to be much of a factor.
Well, Matt LaFleur called the offensive line the deepest he's ever been around. But he also said that, Cobb had a ton left. So I don't know what is coming from Matt LaFleur at this point.
Aaron Rodgers got what he wanted, though. Randall Cobb is his buddy, and now he's back on the team. And, yeah, I think one of the great things about Aaron Rodgers, the football player, is you get the idea he's going to get things figured out and help that offensive line thrive. Mark, how about the Chicago Bears?
I have a bit of a conspiracy theory with the Bears. It was this week that general manager Ryan Pace uttered a line that coach Matt Nagy had said, saying there is a calmness right now that we just feel. Where is the calmness coming from? I feel like both of them are essentially on the hot seat, if no one else is, and they're selling us this sort of song and dance about Andy Dalton starting over Justin Fields, which to me, I mean, it just defies logic. So my conspiracy is, has ownership, which in the past has had no problem sort of, signing up for mediocrity, said, guys, hey boys, you're safe. You're safe. You don't need to go do the logical thing. You're good, and you don't necessarily have to push Justin Fields out there in week 1, despite the entire nation and all of us hoping for that. Is this a tinfoil hat scenario? Am I totally off base here?
I love it when you break out the conspiracies. Usually it's JFK is involved or the Manson, murders. In this case, I think it's an okay conspiracy because the Bears ownership has been hands off in general. If they weren't, Nagy probably wouldn't still be here this year. And you do want to see how they do. I think they could survive a losing record if Justin Fields looks good. And I think they probably will have a losing record because their defense, which has been good for so long, doesn't look nearly as good as it used to. But if Justin Fields is playing well and he's going to play eventually, then Matt Nagy should be pretty safe.
Yeah, I love your theory as well, Mark. I don't buy into it because ultimately I think what's going to happen here is whether Justin Fields plays week 1 or week 4, he's going to start the majority of the games if he's healthy. And if he plays well, that should or may save the brain trust there. And if he bombs out, they're sweeping everybody out. I don't care how kind of sluggish the organization has seemed overall. Up next, the Minnesota Vikings. I'm curious. Mike Zimmer has a lot of work to do on defense. 16 defensive players added to the team through free agency and the draft. And we know Zimmer's a defensive guy, and his ability to shape and mold that side of the ball is what's going to really be the difference, right, guys? Because if he can't, they have no shot here.
I like that, though. I mean, I trust Mike Zimmer getting these guys together. You mentioned all the draft picks. You also get Danielle Hunter back, their best defensive end. You get some big, massive, girthy guys up front to stop the run. They spent a lot of money. Dalvin Tomlinson, Michael Pierce is back. Mike Zimmer having a bad defense last year felt like a weird anomaly, and I would think that they're going to bounce back because of that.
Yeah, I think they're in a lot of transition. I think Mike Zimmer's probably spending about 100 hours a week to not have that happen again. I mean, it was a bit of a blemish on one of the best defensive coaches around. What happened last season? They got Sheldon Richardson too. I think if anything, you just added a lot of might and bodies. So I kind of think it's arrow up to some degree.
I think so too, and I think the Vikings are laying in the weeds a little bit as a playoff contender. I'm just pointing out that that's a big job that Mike Zimmer has on his hands to mold this defense. At least they get a proper summer and training camp to make it happen. Finally, Greg, close us out with the Lions.
Ooh, the Detroit Lions. First of all, I like seeing you back on the Vikings bandwagon. They kind of are sneakier team. Like you're a Cousins guy. The Lions, it's harder to get excited about this year. Like the first thing I could come up with to talk about was their coaches. Like people are really excited about Aaron Glenn as their defensive coordinator, and then Aubrey Pleasant, who Steve Weiss swears is one of the best position coaches in the league, got an upgrade in title, left for the Rams, and is now the secondary coach. But you look at that secondary, Jeff Okudah, one of the most disappointing top 5 picks in a while last year. The rest of the talent, Tracy Walker at safety, Oruware as the other starting corner. On paper, it looks like one of the worst secondaries in the league, and I just can't quite see Jared Goff, Mark, like keeping up in a shootout week after week.
Yeah, I think it's concerning. I think they do have a really interesting and good coaching staff, so that does help. But it is 2021; it's not 1971. So if you have a battered or an inexperienced secondary against a pass-obsessed league, I would say good luck, Joan of Arc, with that.
Yeah, I need a full season with a full off season with Jeff Okudah before we decide whether or not he's a bust. Because when they picked him up in the draft, he felt like a sure thing. Let's see what he does in year 2. That's a tough year to come into the league last year, especially at that position. All right, there we go. Let's close the book on the NFC North. We're just getting started here on the broadcast. Up next, we go to the other side, the AFC North, and we pay Lamar and Bengals a visit. Do we trust those coaches with Burrow? Up next. Football is back. Time to celebrate. Immediately following this television broadcast, watch all 32 teams take the field for the first ever training camp back together Saturday. fueled by Gatorade with a full day of practices and fan fests across the league. It's a can't-miss NFL reunion. Training camp back together Saturday, immediately following us right here on NFL Network. How exciting. And we are the appetizer. We're proud to be. Let's get going on the AFC North, starting with you, Mark.
Well, let's go to the Baltimore Ravens. And look, I'm not trying to be that guy, but I just want to ask a question. They have talked all offseason, play caller Greg Roman, about switching up that offense a little bit, becoming a little bit more traditional in aspects of it, not quite as run heavy. And part of that is just, you get into situations where you're passing the ball and you need to be successful. Would you wait a little bit on just handing out this monster new contract to Lamar Jackson just to see how it goes for a couple months? Or is that crazy?
I don't think it's crazy, but I'm not worried about it. First of all, Lamar is apparently helping to represent himself. If they struggle this year, I think it's Greg Roman that's going somewhere else. I mean, Lamar has changed how defenses play football in the NFL. I don't think if he's not their long-term quarterback, like, they've got bigger issues. You just pay the man. I know you're wish casting here, Mark, rooting against the Ravens.
Lamar Jackson is 24 years old. He's been to the playoffs every year as a starter. He's a former MVP. That's the guy you pay. And I know there are questions about his abilities as a passer and all that stuff. Well, he's someone to me that you take the financial gamble on and don't poison the waters. Just do this thing right. Greg, how about the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Well, I've really noticed the transition from our friend Mark Sessler this offseason. Like, at the beginning of the offseason, he was just dumping on this team. He's a Browns fan who's still feeling good about the playoffs.
That's
and
fair.
Now, haven't you noticed, Dan, like, as we get closer to the season, he's starting to talk them up, and he's worried that the old Steelers are coming back.
Right. You sense that.
It's the natural progression.
And you look at where they were in January and December as well, of course, when they were just in a free fall, then get embarrassed by Mark's Browns. But these are the Steelers, and they always seem to find a way. The situation with Big Ben, still very tricky. Is he going to still be able to play the guitar? I don't know. But, Greg, as you make the point, their front seven is fearsome. And you imagine their ability to play defense and then score enough points. They're going to be a team that's in the mix. I think they're very volatile still, Mark. But I think there is a path to 11 wins here.
You can definitely say they are a top 3 front seven. I think Washington and Tampa might have a little something to say about that themselves. But the Steelers, to your point, Greg, about starting to fear them a little bit more as the season and the reality starts to come up and September's getting closer, because they've just been doing this to Cleveland and other teams forever. Cleveland has to go out and prove that they can actually do what they do 2 years in a row. Mike Tomlin's never had a losing record. So yes, my hesitancy begins to creep up and grow just a bit. It's not courageous. It just is what it is.
It's just like, there's so much focus on what they don't have in terms of Ben. Like, how about what they do? That front seven is incredible. Mike Tomlin's an incredible coach. They have a lot of weapons. So as we get closer, I'm reminded of the fact they did win 12 games last year.
They did. And you look at the Cleveland Browns, our next team we're going to talk about here, Mark. And, I'm going through the positional groups. I go through each part of the team. I don't find any weakness. In fact, I find depth. The only place where maybe you could say there's an issue here is Mr. Double Doink, Cody Parkey, as your place kicker. Otherwise, this team looks loaded, and they are the preseason darling this year. What am I missing? What are a lot of other people missing potentially? What makes you nervous about the Browns, if anything?
Well, I think you got a lot of new faces on defense. So Joe Woods, defensive coordinator, he's going to have a lot of work to kind of get them up to speed in his scheme by week 1. The other thing is, Football Outsiders noted that they were of 11-5 teams that have ever occurred in football history. They had the second lowest DVOA of any of those 11-5 teams. They were a mess on defense last year. You could argue that they patched that up. I think the third thing is, I'm really excited by what Baker Mayfield did down the stretch last season. Was it a one-year thing? Can he make it happen this year? I believe he can, but I think you have to find that out. And that's a number of variables that the season, I think, hinges on entirely.
Yeah, you're waiting to pay Lamar Jackson, you said, Mark, or maybe think that was a good idea. Baker's the guy I'd like to see for 5 or 6 more games.
Sure.
Just see how it looks. Year 2 is Stefanski. Then give him his money. He's making enough money off the commercials at this point.
Oh, my God, those commercials. Can we just slow them down a little bit? Mark, close it out with the Bengals. I mean,
here's my question
your money,
with the Bengals.
Baker, but you're killing me.
We can talk about the commercials another time. Zach Taylor and his
staff, is he a better quarterback or is he a better actor? I don't know. He's that good at acting.
Well, no, Peyton Manning's the funniest quarterback of all time, please. Well, there's just
All right,
no
go ahead.
debating that. So, shall we talk about the Bengals for 8 seconds?
Sure.
Here's my thing. Like you have a transcendental quarterback potentially in Joe Burrow, and I have no idea who this coaching staff is. This was not a Rams offense last year. They ran play action at the 23rd most in the league of all the teams, and they used a ton of empty backfield sets that left Joe Burrow scrambling for his life and unprotected and ultimately injured. So my question is, do you trust this Bengals team, this staff, this organization to do the right thing with a franchise quarterback, or is this just another of the old same stories coming out of Cincinnati?
No,
This
I don't
coaching
trust.
staff has got to show it.
Yeah, I don't
right?
trust
I
them.
mean, we haven't seen it.
No.
We've been talking about Zach Taylor for like 2 years. Like, show us something, Zach Taylor. Are you a believer? Like, I don't know. I haven't seen anything to know for sure. And you have to improve on offense and defense. To me, is a big deal. That it's not just one side of the ball that has to get better.
It just felt like a very Bengals move, not to belabor this with the draft, to take a wide receiver when they had wide receiver talent and they used their first overall pick on a quarterback the year before. And you had a stud offensive lineman waiting there after you got your quarterback nearly killed last year. Those are the type of organizational decisions that kind of drive me crazy. And I'm sure Bengals fans feel the same way. All right.
Been on your
Close the book
radar.
on the AFC North. Let's move over to the NFC East and getting us going. Greg on the New York G-Men.
It's been a little under the radar, I feel like, how the Giants have handled Saquon Barkley. Not that, you need to be too concerned. It's the first week of training camp. He's coming off a major injury. But usually you show up and everyone's like, I feel better than I've ever felt. And Saquon's definitely put the brake, stop onto that and kind of made it clear he might not be ready for week one. Like, how big of a factor do you think that is, Mark, for their season?
I think it is. I mean, this is a player that's missed 17 games over the last 2 years. The Giants don't seem to think so. They gave him his $7 million fifth-year option. I mean, they still want to build this offense around him, but they have definitely gone out and found other weapons because he's been unreliable. You can't build it around him, and their running game has fallen apart when he's not been in there.
This is a huge year for Barkley. It's obviously a huge year for Dave Gettleman. They used the top 3 pick to get Barkley, and because they haven't had the right team built around him, there have been flashes of greatness, but he's also struggled a lot to get going in games, and the injuries as well. And you wonder if Barkley is the type of guy, even as great and as talented as he is, no running back can truly rise above mediocrity all around him, which then goes back to the point of, well, do you use a pick that high on a running back? It's a tale as old as time. Mark.
Yes.
Another team that used the high first-round pick on a running back, Ezekiel Elliott is his name. How about the Dallas Cowboys?
Well, with the Cowboys, I know that this thing with Dak Prescott, the shoulder, maybe they're calling it minor. Maybe it's not a huge issue, but it does raise another question for me about the way the Cowboys are built. And this has happened to the Cowboys in the past. If you don't have Dak Prescott, you've got the 3-headed, I want to call it a monster. It's something. Garrett Gilbert, Cooper Rush, and Ben DiNucci coming in to save the day at quarterback. I mean, they came in for the first practice this week when Dak was out and threw 5 interceptions, and it just sounded like they were dominated by the defense. It's not to say someone like Garrett Gilbert, who I do think has showed his little promise, could be a backup at some point. But did Jerry Jones, amid his 4-hour-long press conferences acting like this team is a floating dynasty, not do enough at a truly important position behind a quarterback that has that injury history? I just find that to be a bit puzzling out of Dallas.
Yeah, if only they had an example of losing a great quarterback and ruining their entire season. Oh, wait, it was last year. It was the Tony Romo year, too. Like, right. I'm shocked that they didn't do more, but I'm more concerned about Amari Cooper and DeMarcus Lawrence's injuries even than Dak Prescott. I'm not quite buying the idea that's like, this is nothing. Like, they want Dak Prescott out there practicing. For him to miss a couple weeks is a big deal, but it's a bigger deal to me that Amari Cooper has been out 7 months. DeMarcus Lawrence has been out 7 months, and they're still not going to be ready for another couple weeks. Like, those are the 2 veterans I'm watching in camp to see when they get back on the field.
I see what you're saying about the quarterback and maybe having a more established guy back there. But newsflash, if your superstar quarterback goes down with an injury, your season's shot anyway. I mean, there's only so many Kurt Warner feel-good stories out there in the history of the NFL. Like, who is the guy? If they traded for Gardner Minshew this offseason, would you be like, all right, the Cowboys are fine now, I'm not worried about Dak Prescott if he gets hurt? Either way, you're
Here's
banged.
the counterpoint. I'm not saying if it goes down for 14 weeks, you're right, ship sinks. But I'm talking there may be a 2-game stretch where you got to come out of there with a 1-1 record and you're going 0-2 with nobody.
Okay,
Ooh,
that's
I
fair.
mean, Minshew would be kind of fun. I like that idea.
I like that too.
I mean, we're watching some Danucci action here. I don't want to see that again. Let's give the mustache man a call down in Jacksonville. That's a good idea, Dan.
Nobody wants him. Finally, the Philadelphia Eagles. Do they want Jalen Hurts?
Oh,
I just don't know what's going on. And you look at the beginning of training camp there, and Joe Flacco is sneaking around the periphery in terms of getting reps with the first team, and you heard all the buzz in the offseason. I just wonder where Jalen Hurts' head is at. Maybe as a professional athlete, he's successfully trained not to even be plugged in on any of this. But there does feels like there's a certain amount of doubt around him, and that's a kind of a strange way to begin a new era for the Eagles.
I would talk more about their assets because they have 2 first-round picks, which could turn into 3, depending on how much Carson Wentz plays, TBD. And if you have 3 first-round picks, you're in the money for the Russell Wilson type of trade if that happened next offseason, or to move up and down the draft to get the quarterback of choice. So it's a huge year for Jalen Hurts.
yeah. I guess, Dan, like, what do you want? You know, his backup's Joe Flacco. Like, Nick Mullins is there. He's like a late second-round pick. You're giving him a shot. He's basically the starter. They've got a good offensive line. Like, what are you going to do? Roll out the red carpet for, like, the 50th pick in the draft?
I'm not interested in a Deshaun Watson conversation right now, but I'll tell you this. It's interesting to me that the Eagles keep on seeming to pop up in these conversations.
You're right.
And if Jalen Hurts is a guy that you really liked, I don't know if that's happening. And where is that coming from? Maybe it's just speculation. I don't know. Close it out, Greg, with the Washington football team.
I mean, if you think about the Eagles and Washington, who's the next team, those are really 2 of the only teams in the NFL. Denver's another one that don't have a quarterback situation settled next year. So I think you're right about Watson and like Wilson, and that they'll be in the market. For now, though, it's Fitzmagic's team, and Fitzmagic is talking up Adam Humphries like crazy. And I had to think, like, wait, was Fitzmagic with Humphrey? Oh, yeah, they were in Tampa together, and he caught like 100 passes. I'm getting hyped for Adam Humphries. This is a camp story, Dan, and I'm all over it. Get him in your fantasy league, round 15.
Whoa. Well, I'll tell you what.
That time of year.
Adam Humphries was a guy that people liked a couple of years back, and then he signed a nice contract with the Titans and didn't do anything with a good quarterback in Ryan Tannehill and an offense that he should have thrived in. So I guess that tempers my enthusiasm a little bit, but maybe a fresh start and some magic involved, Sessler.
I don't know, there's some chemistry there, obviously, and it's a known quantity. This isn't the same thing as, Aaron Rodgers tugging Randall Cobb back in the mix. These 2 they're making it happen in day-to-day in practice. I also say Curtis Samuel is on the COVID list right now. So, there are other people that are going to contribute when we get to real games, real competition, Greg.
Are you being serious, Greg?
I am at that. I think he could catch 60, 70 balls if he's healthy. He's still 27 years old. And I looked at those numbers he had with Fitzpatrick, but it was more like a larger point that they've got all these options. You mentioned Samuel. I love Antonio Gibson. They gave Logan Thomas a big-time contract. Terry McLaurin is like a true number 1. You start stacking these up. I have been so bored watching this Washington football team for about, 17, 20 years now. Like, this one should at least be pretty fun to watch.
You're only 19, so that's almost your entire life.
The Mark Rippon Washington team, that was a team to get behind. I almost did it, but I didn't. All right. Okay. Close the book on the NFC East. We are flying now. We're going all the way around the NFL as we begin training camp. And coming up next, the AFC East. The Patriots. It's another QB battle up there. Who's going to win? The kid or the vet? Up next on the broadcast. Welcome back to the broadcast presented by the United States Marine Corps. Let's move on to the AFC East. Greg, get us going with the Pats.
It's going to be a daily battle in New England. Like, the reporters are loving this. Mac Jones looks good against air, but Cam Newton's arm is really strong. I guess, like, I'd ask Dan, like, are you thinking that if it's even, Mac Jones is leaving? You know that there's that phrase, like, if he's already, close to beating Cam Newton, isn't this just going to be Mac Jones?
I don't think so. And by the way, Mac Jones, NFL Network, we got to get a fresh headshot for Mac Jones because he looks like a junior rep for Morgan Stanley, and that's just not going to get it done.
It's not working
in our league. But anyway, but beyond that, I don't know. I feel like Belichick is so different than everyone that he's going to do what he wants to do, even if it would make more sense for Mac Jones to start right out of the gate. But I think he likes Cam Newton and he respects Cam Newton, and I could see him giving him a shot here to kind of improve upon last season. What do you think, Mark?
I'm with you. I'm with you because I think that Bill Belichick has just glowed about Cam Newton. I think he likes the person. I think he likes the player. Last year was really, a rough road to even get ready for the season. But I do think you get to a scenario where Cam Newton throws 2 interceptions in week 1 and everyone is asking about Mac Jones. So I don't think it's going to be a long leash, but I do think you start with Cam Newton if it's even in New England in this situation.
I'm with you. And like, I do think Belichick would love to go into week 1 playing really fast football, like hurry up with Cam Newton. They did that at the end of last season. They've got the 2 tight ends. You don't have to sub out personnel. But the fact that he's giving Mac Jones half the first team reps right off the bat tells me maybe he's not quite as in love with Cam Newton as I thought. Like, I want to get back at all the people like you, Dan, and Eric, our producer, who are just hating on Cam Newton. Like, that's the result I want to see. It's what Belichick wants to see. But Mac Jones might just be better. So then you just got to.
What is this? I'm hating on Cam Newton. He threw like 9 touchdowns last year.
You guys were just making fun of him. I mean, he was trying, it's hard. He got COVID, and you guys were just like talking about all the one-hoppers he had. It was tough.
And by the way, I noticed you're wearing the short sleeve button up, Greg. Not usually part of your repertoire. I just want to let you know
it's like a pharmacist outfit. Like I will offer you your medicine for you today
spicy.
At CVS.
That's spicy.
All right, Mark, how about the heavily favored in the AFC East Buffalo Bills?
Yeah, the Bills. I think it's kind of like if you look around the whole league, like which team would you say probably is a lock to win their division? I'd say Chiefs. I'd say Bills are right there with them. I just wonder, like, there's so much focus on the offense because of the leap that Josh Allen took and the weapons they have. I look at the side of the defense and say, is there a bit of a weakness here? I'm specifically a little skeptical about the pass rush, the way that they were unable in late fourth quarter scenarios last year to get sacks, to get game-changing plays. The last time we saw them, they gave up 3 straight 77-plus yard scoring drives to the Chiefs in the first half of that AFC Championship game they were thumped in. Greg, do you think they've done enough to get this defense back where it needs to be, where it was back in like 2019 or so?
On paper, no. I mean, you're going to have those draft picks pan out. Jerry Hughes going to have to be good. But I kind of just trust in Sean McDermott because he had such a good defense for 4 straight years. The secondary still looks good. The linebacker crew with Edmonds should be good. And to me, the defense is the difference. Like, if the defense gets back to a top 8-10 defense like they used to be, they are the Super Bowl favorite. Like, I think you would put them even ahead of Kansas City if they have their old defense. So I trust in McDermott.
I trust McDermott, everything up there. They're doing everything right now. But you're right, Mark. If the team is good enough and the quarterback's great enough that if they just have good health, you think they're going to get the 11, perhaps 12 wins, and they'll get the division. But when you're playing Lamar Jackson or Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs, if you can't get that sustained pass rush, you look what the pass rush of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers did to Patrick Mahomes. That's how you beat a powerhouse like that and keep the Chiefs from going to a 3rd consecutive Super Bowl. They're going to need somebody to step up there. Speaking of teams that need somebody to step up, the Jets need somebody in their wide receiver group to step up and start making plays because they haven't had a 1,000-yard receiver since Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall 5 seasons ago. And I want to ask you this because we got Zach Wilson in camp now, and that's good. And they have an army of what I call good receivers. Corey Davis, Jamison Crowder, Keelan Cole, Denzel Mims, who's a project, but we'll see, Elijah Moore, the rookie that people are very high on. Can a bunch of good create something great? Do you think there's potential here for a real killer unit?
I think so. If the offensive line is as good as it should be, it looks great on paper. If the coach, Mark's boy, McDaniel, is as good as he should be, I actually do think the receiver is a nice position to go a little cheaper at, and that they could be really explosive if your boy Mark McDaniel, delivers.
Well, I think you meet Mike LaFleur, who like they're running that Shanahan offense, and I think that's the difference here in New York, Dan. This is not, they have been all over the place with their scheme. We get it under Adam Gase. It's a little concerning to hear like Denzel Mims has been pushed today down to like the third string group of wide receivers. They don't seem real high on him, and our podcast certainly was. So you need some of these guys to kind of just materialize. But I do think, number one, if Zach can do it, this offense is going to look completely different. He's in a great quarterback offense.
My father-in-law, Bob Bates, DDS, Baylor alum.
Big Bob.
So high in Denzel Mims that he called in on draft night a year ago to crow about how great he would be. And it does seem like he is not in the good graces of this new coaching staff. We'll see what that means. Close it out, Greg, with the Dolphins.
A lot on the line for Bob Bates. A lot on the line for Xavier Howard. He's making this push to get traded, and he's not practicing right now. I don't think teams are calling. Tell me if you disagree. I think ultimately he's going to have an Aaron Rodgers-like end to this holdout where no one wants to trade for him, and he has to play for the contract that he's under right now.
I'm with you. I see the same thing. I think there is – I mean, it could happen because if a team ponies up a first-round pick, the Dolphins will pull the trigger. But I don't know if that's going to happen because not only are you trading for Howard and giving up that prize draft asset – you're also dealing with a guy that is very cranky about his payday, and you have to deal with that too. Is Howard that special player that you're going to give up a Jamal Adams type trade or something near it?
I just look at these things and say, yeah, it's probably true that maybe 28 teams are saying no right now, but there's always a couple teams that are thinking, what if you're the Chiefs and say, look, if we get this guy from the Dolphins, it puts us over the top. Now, it's a certain grouping of squads that would say, we know enough about the player, not enough as Miami, but we think the value's worth it. Then they go for it. So there's always going to be one team.
Well, you got to make it work financially too. I know the Chiefs feel like one of those teams I can never figure out the salary cap where it's like they don't have a salary cap, or do they? I'm not sure.
No, it doesn't seem like
we'll bring in a cornerback for $3 trillion. That's fine. Join us. Join us for the second half of our program as we continue. NFC West up next. Jimmy G trade theory coming up. And one of us isn't sold on Matty Stafford. I think I know who it is.
Shocker.
Up next. The biggest day in training camp is upon us, and you could watch it right here on NFL Network immediately following this very broadcast. It's training camp back together Saturday, fueled by Gatorade. We're bouncing around from camp to camp all day long as NFL football is back in the biggest way possible. We're also back with our Around the NFL adventure. The NFC West, Mark, the 49ers.
You know, I think the Shanahan scenario in San Francisco, he has been real upfront with Jimmy G about Jimmy G's role. But I have to ask you this yes or no question. November 2nd trade deadline hits. Is Jimmy G still on the San Francisco 49ers, or is he somewhere else because Trey Lance is just too special to keep off the field?
No. I mean, if you gave me September 2nd, I'm going to say no. I don't know who it would be. You know, we're going to get to the Colts in a bit. Not sure if that makes sense. But to me, it's Trey Lance's job if Trey Lance looks awesome. And so far, it's early, but we've heard Trey Lance looks awesome.
All right, up next, the Seattle Seahawks. I think this feels like a make-or-break year for the organization, and I think about that because we know the Russell Wilson drama there. Then you think about the Jamal Adams situation. We don't know what his contract status is. As of right now, a deal may be close. It may not be close. Wouldn't you potentially pump the brakes on that as well if you are maybe going to trade Russell Wilson? Where are you if you're a team builder for the Seahawks right now?
It is concerning, but I don't think they're trading Russell Wilson. Of all the quarterback antagonism and annoyed signal callers, it feels like he's in the better place than most of them right now. I think he tweeted something about it a couple days ago. So I don't think it's sort of a final year in Seattle now.
He has gotten really happy and saying how he loves everyone, shouting everyone out. I mean, to me, it's more make or break maybe for Carroll. It's been a long time now that their defense has been worse than their offense. He's a defensive coach. I mean, if I'm ownership there, I am not allowing Russell Wilson to leave, but maybe make or break for Carroll.
I mean, I think you're right about that. I also think Russell Wilson being all happy and all smiles at the end of July doesn't mean much, but what happens if it's January and they go one and done, or God forbid, don't make the playoffs? Things could get ugly in a hurry. Just something to keep an eye on. Do you want to give Jamal Adams a market-setting contract extension in that case? I don't know. Greg, Cardinals.
The Cardinals, like the Seahawks, have kind of a lot simmering right now. I was surprised to hear this week Cliff Kingsbury said the ball is in Larry Fitzgerald's court, which indicates to me they gave Larry Fitzgerald a contract offer. Larry Fitzgerald is not retired. I know we got Chandler Jones. Maybe he gets traded or not. These are pretty big names here. We don't know, Mark. I guess Larry Fitzgerald might be back in our lives with the Cardinals this year.
I mean, it's possible, but so are we going to have Larry Fitzgerald and A.J. Green on the field? They have 22 receivers. They drafted someone. I mean, half of them are under 6 feet tall, but still, it seems like too many guys.
I don't know. I love Larry Fitzgerald. We all do, but it's
right.
It's like when Aerosmith puts out a new album. Everyone's like, I don't know, guys. Do we have a pretty nice record to stand on here? Do we want to maybe sully things a little bit? It's like The Simpsons in season 47. Maybe we just stand? I love Larry Fitzgerald. Mark, the Rams.
All right, I'm just going to ask you something. The Matthew Stafford thing, I think the Rams boldly upgraded the position, and I gave him a lot of credit for that. But I do feel like there's a lot of, hey, just send him to the Super Bowl right away now. I would ask you this. Matthew Stafford has never taken an offense top 10 DVOA since 2012. I don't remember a lot of transcendent Matthew Stafford games. Are we overrating this connection just a little bit here in July?
Oh, wait
Delusions of grandeur.
First of all, you began this by saying they boldly upgraded a quarterback. Well, done deal. I mean, if that's what they've done, we'll see how it all plays out. And I do think there have been transcendent Matt Stafford moments. And I'm not just talking about the game where he threw his shoulder, his shoulder got knocked out of the socket, and he still led the Lions to a win. He's been a very good quarterback for a long time. And maybe, Greg, he becomes a great quarterback with supreme coaching.
Yeah, I get your point, Mark, that the media, we've been hyping him up a lot. There were those QB tiers that came out this week from Mike Sando, which is great. And Stafford's in tier 2, the number 7 quarterback. Yeah, I'm with you about that. But it's such a Mark Sessler move to have the topic bar at the bottom say delusions of grandeur. And then the whole time Mark's just backpedaling, being like, Stafford's fine. He's okay. But it's say what you mean. Say it with your chest. You're saying true, delusions of grandeur.
Answer that, Mark.
It's a quick segment.
You can't say bold upgrade and then have
speech
delusions
here.
of grandeur.
I think it is delusions of grandeur. I think the media, again, is having delusions of grandeur. Let's remember who Stafford's been. That's all. I mean, he's been good. Has he been great? Is he a great quarterback? Top 5? No.
It's all
It's got to
projection.
show it. That's fair.
That's why this has been such a great, fascinating move from a football fan / pundit perspective, because it passes the eye test, sniff test of what could happen potentially, or what Mark seems to think is going to happen. It's going to be much ado about nothing, and the Rams aren't a Super Bowl team. Well, we'll find out. I think that's what you were saying, Mark. I don't want to put words.
No, that is being tainted a bit.
Are they going to the Super Bowl?
TBD.
Up next, we hit the AFC South. Trouble in Indy at the QB position. Uh-oh. Welcome back to the broadcast presented by the United States Marine Corps. All right, let's get to it. AFC South, and bad situation here for the Colts. No way around it. Let's check out the reporting from Rap Sheet on Friday. Rap Sheet reported that Colts QB Carson Wentz is expected to miss the rest of the preseason and faces the prospect of foot surgery. He's hoping to play through it, but surgery to repair would likely mean he's on the sidelines when the season starts. Bad situation for the Colts. What does it mean spinning forward? We need to find out how long he's actually going to be out, but it does make you think, especially with a killer slate awaiting the Colts week 1 through 5. Are they going to be in the market for a quarterback because they don't have someone they could trust behind Wentz?
No, they have Jacob Eason, a second-year, quarterback. I was surprised that they went into the offseason as their backup, and it's the time of year that they kind of put a positive spin on most anything. The fact that Rap Sheet says surgery's possible already makes me think it's more than likely, and that Wentz could miss a lot of time. It's so disappointing for them. There are veteran quarterbacks out there, whether it's Jimmy G, whether it's Nick Foles. I mean, can you imagine Carson Wentz hearing that Nick Foles is his backup again and is now on the Colts, maybe going 3-2 to start the year? That would be insane.
I mean, it suggests that we do live in a computer simulation if that happens to us again. I just I don't like hearing about a quarterback playing through the foot injury either. It just seems like the kind of thing that you get to March and it's like, yeah, I was never right the whole year, even though reports said otherwise. I was never healthy. So it's a terrible event for a reuniting between Frank Reich and Wentz that everyone basically was going crazy over. So
now this is my pick for go get Gardner Minshew, give up a 5th round pick. Get that dude in there, and maybe you can survive if you're going to be missing Wentz. Up next, the Titans, Mark.
I just talk about someone named Todd Downing, who is taking over Arthur Smith's job as offensive coordinator. Arthur Smith got that head coaching job in Atlanta because of the incredible work he did with that Titans offense. They had an ultra identity. He used them really well. And I know you have Julio Jones, but I just wonder how this is going to work, because it is not an easy task to take over this offense and do the same thing. He says it has, elements. It's going to look like the offense from before, but how often have we seen these things just not really translate and sometimes just go off the rails?
I'm with you that I always worry about the coaches that come and they're like, we're going to keep the system exactly the same. Like Raheem Morris is taking over for Brandon Staley in Los Angeles. We're going to keep the system the same. Yet he didn't run that system before. It's a little different in Tennessee where they're promoting from within. But I think Arthur Smith, the way he could call plays, it is a concern. But they got to be looking at what's happening in Indianapolis, and they have to think we are the AFC South favorites if we weren't before.
Absolutely. And he has the weapons to do damage with, and they could also fall back in some elements of the game plan if things go south. I'm okay right now with the Titans on offense. Greg, how about the Jaguars?
Well, it's Minshew season. I mean, he was talking up that he's not looking to be a backup. He's taking first team reps. I'm not taking this too seriously, but I could see them showcasing Minshew in the preseason. I don't know if they'd help out Indianapolis. That would be an interesting trade, but he should be someone's backup, and it doesn't seem like they really want him. When you saw this news, Mark, that Minshew was taking first team reps, like, tell me you got a little bit excited, because you were Team Minshew all the way.
I love his approach. He's like, I don't care who came in from what college. I am Gardner Minshew. I am a starter in the NFL, and if it's not here, it'll be somewhere else. The thing is, every time they try to suppress him, he keeps rising up. So it's a tough scenario for Trevor Lawrence, because Gardner Minshew is not an easy guy to have as your number two.
I feel good here on Mount Pius. A couple of years ago, everyone on the show talking up that guy like he's Tony Romo. And where is he now? Your hero, your mustachioed
played
hero.
Fine last year.
You are spinning that. Rough. You are spinning.
They had to bench Gardner Minshew so that they could get the number one seed over your Jets. They knew he was too good for that.
I don't know, man. I didn't see a lot of W's for Gardner Minshew as a starter last season, but close it out, Mark.
Houston, obviously a lot of stuff happening that is not positive at all. It's been a bit of a train wreck, but I look at Nick Caserio and I say this: I can see that he is going to be a good general manager. I think a year from now, when they've come out of some of this, thunderstorm that's a nonstop occurring inside of that city, you're going to have a general manager that is capable. He's been incredibly active. It kind of reminds me of the way the Patriots operated, bringing in 1 billion running backs, a ton of wide receivers. I'm just saying that amid all this darkness, I think Nick Caserio was the guy they wanted all along, and I think they were right about that, and we'll see where it goes.
We shall see. A lot of work to be done in Houston. All right. We're almost to the finish line. We close things out with the final 8 teams, including the Bucks. Are they about to be better with Tom Brady in year 2? Is that possible? Everything's possible with that guy. Up next on the broadcast. It's time for Fighting Spirit, presented by the United States Marine Corps. We got 8 more teams to start with the NFC South and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, the defending champ. My question, Tom Brady, he's not even wearing a sleeve or anything on the surgically repaired knee, the blown out MCL last season, and he's talking up having an even better season. You buy it? Could the Bucs be better on offense?
Ooh. That would be like scary, especially for the Saints. You know, the one matchup that gave the Bucs a lot of problems. The Saints, on the other hand, have had like a nightmare start to everything. And I wonder, with the Saints, could they be running more? Could we see more Taysom Hill and the running game, because you don't have Michael Thomas early in the season? You might not have Deontay Harris either. Maybe it's not Jameis Winston throwing the ball all over the place.
I had the same question. I think that makes a ton of sense. But one team people are ignoring in the South is the Panthers. Matt Rule's Panthers, 13 games last year decided by one score. They were 27th in the league in red zone offense. They were terrible. If they can improve that with Christian McCaffrey back and Sam Darnold, this team is going to surprise some people.
Speaking of running back, the Falcons, Mike Davis, we all like Mike Davis and what he did replacing Christian McCaffrey last year, but he kind of got wore down the stretch. They don't have a real clear backup behind him. They really need a veteran in there. There's so many out there. Adrian Peterson, I'll throw out one name. He would make sense. We have one more minute. AFC West, speed it up, and I'll start. Chiefs, Patrick Mahomes, check this out. Watch this, and I'm just going to tell you something. Watch out for Mahomes with a better offensive line. This might be another record-breaking season. I'm talking about setting all the passing records. Greg, how about the Broncos?
That's all right. We promised 32 teams in one show. Wouldn't it be funny if I just spent the next 45 seconds talking about the Broncos and how they've got the best defense in the league, and then just totally ruined it for the last two teams? No, I won't do that. You go with the Chargers, Mike.
The Chargers, I'm just saying, they're this LA junior team, totally forgotten about here in the streets of LA. I think they have the better quarterback than the Rams, the better healthy running back. Their wide receivers are spicy. Their offensive line is good. And they took the Rams' best assistant coach. So I'm telling you what, watch out for the Chargers. I don't like them being downrated. Mark,
your anti-Rams sentiment, it never ceases. Finally, the Raiders.
It's pro-Chargers.
I know Gus Bradley is a good defensive coordinator. I just don't know if he has the horses there. And Cleveland Farrell is not even maybe going to be in the rotation, a number 4 overall pick last year. Just a lot of work to do with the Raiders. I don't know if they have the guys. Okay, we did it.
They said we couldn't do it. We did it. All 32.
32 teams. Enjoy the training camp madness and come back next week for more broadcasts. We did it!